Tonight, before you go to sleep, you will probably use a toilet without thinking about it once. You will sit down, you will flush, you will wash your hands. The whole act will take less than 2 minutes, and you will never wonder where that water goes or why this is even possible. But the real answer is far stranger than you think. For more than 99% of human history, none of this existed. No porcelain, no pipes, no privacy. Just you, the open ground, and a problem your body has been solving since before you were even human. Start with the body itself. Your body was not designed with a toilet in mind. It was designed with a squat in mind. Anthropologist Dov Sikirov ran a study in the early 2000s comparing sitting versus squatting during defecation, and the results were clear. Squatting straightens the angle between your rectum and your colon. Sitting kinks it. Your ancestors did not choose to squat because it was primitive. They squatted because it worked with their anatomy instead of against it. Every joint in the human hip and ankle is built to fold into that position with almost no effort. You can still see it in toddlers before chairs train it out of them. Watch a 2-year-old rest. They drop into a perfect squat, heels flat, spine straight, and stay there for minutes without strain. That is not a learned behavior. That is the original setting. So where did your ancestors actually go? The answer depends entirely on which era of ancient you mean, because humans have spent far longer figuring this out than you might assume. For early hunter-gatherers, the solution was simple. The world was the bathroom. Small mobile groups moved constantly, so waste was left behind and the group moved on. No buildup, no smell, no problem. Nature handled disposal the same way it handled every other animal's waste, through decomposition, insects, and rain. The real shift happened with settlement. Once humans began farming around 10,000 years ago, they stopped moving. And a group of people staying in one place creates a problem that nomadic life never had to solve. Where does everything go when you cannot just leave it behind? Archaeologists have actually found the answer buried beneath some of the oldest cities on Earth. At the Indus Valley site of Mohenjo-Daro, dating back roughly 4,500 years, researchers uncovered private latrines connected to covered drains running beneath the streets. Yes, indoor plumbing existed before the wheel was common in much of the world. These were not luxury items. They were public health infrastructure, because the people living in dense cities had already learned, likely the hard way, what happens when waste and drinking water mix. That lesson came at a brutal cost. Historian Stephen Johnson documented one of history's clearest examples in his account of the 1854 London cholera outbreak. Physician John Snow traced a deadly outbreak in Soho back to a single contaminated water pump, proving for the first time that disease spread through tainted water rather than through bad air, which was the dominant theory at the time. Before that discovery, cities had been quietly poisoning themselves for centuries. Waste from outhouses and cesspits seeped into the same ground that fed the wells people drank from. Nobody connected the two. People got sick, people died, and almost no one understood why. This is the part that should make you pause. Humans built empires, wrote epic poems, invented mathematics, and charted the stars long before they figured out that they should not drink water near their own waste. Knowledge does not always move in a straight line. Sometimes the most basic survival lessons take the longest to learn because they are too close to notice. You do not question the thing you have been doing your entire life. Your ancestors didn't either. Different cultures solved this in wildly different ways once they realized the stakes. Ancient Rome built the Cloaca Maxima, a massive sewer system that is still partially functional today, nearly 2,500 years later. Roman public latrines were communal, rows of stone seats with no dividers, where citizens sat shoulder to shoulder, chatting, doing business, completely unbothered by what modern people would consider an extreme violation of privacy. There was a shared sponge on a stick, rinsed in a trough of running water, passed from person to person. It sounds horrifying now. It was simply normal then. Privacy, it turns out, is not an ancient human need. It is a relatively recent cultural invention. For most of human history, going to the bathroom was a communal, unremarkable act, about as private as eating a meal. The discomfort you feel walking into a public restroom today, the instinct to find an empty stool, The silence, the avoidance of eye contact, none of that is hardwired into you. It is learned. It is cultural conditioning stacked on top of biology, and it happened astonishingly fast on an evolutionary timeline. So when did privacy become the standard? Medieval Europe offers a strange middle chapter. Castles built garderobes, small stone alcoves jutting out from the walls, with a hole that let waste fall directly into the moat or a pit below. Convenient for the people inside. Considerably less convenient for whoever was standing underneath. In crowded medieval towns without this luxury, the answer was often a chamber pot, emptied directly out the window into the street below, sometimes with a shouted warning, sometimes without one. Streets functioned as open sewers. The smell, by every historical account, was overwhelming. It was not until the 19th century, with the spread of indoor plumbing and the growing scientific understanding of germ theory, that the modern toilet as you know it began to take shape. Engineer credit for refining the flush mechanism is often given to Thomas Crapper, though the device itself existed in earlier forms. What actually changed everything was not the toilet bowl. It was the sewer system behind it, the invisible infrastructure carrying waste far away from drinking water, finally applying the lesson London learned from its cholera outbreak. Here is the part that connects all of this directly back to you. Your body still remembers the squat your ancestors used for millions of years, even though your environment has trained you out of it. Gastroenterologists have studied modern straining patterns and found that sitting toilets, while comfortable, can make full evacuation slightly harder because of that same anatomical kink Sikirov measured. This is part of why squatty stools, small footrests that elevate your knees while sitting, became a wellness trend in recent years. They are not a new invention. They are an attempt to recreate a position your body has used since before agriculture, before cities, before the wheel. Your discomfort with public restrooms, your need for a locked door, your instinct toward privacy in this one specific act, all of it is recent. Younger, even, than written language. The Romans would find your anxiety bizarre. Your hunter-gatherer ancestors would find the entire concept of a bathroom bizarre. They had no need for a dedicated room because the whole world served that function and nobody thought twice about it. What changed was not your biology. Your body is still essentially the same machine that squatted comfortably for millions of years. What changed was density. The moment humans stopped moving and started stacking themselves into permanent settlements, waste stopped being something nature could quietly absorb and became something humans had to actively manage. Every sewer, every latrine, every modern toilet exists because of that one shift. Settlement created a problem nomadic life never had, and civilization has spent 10,000 years quietly solving it. So tonight, when you sit down on that porcelain seat without a second thought, you are using the end result of thousands of years of trial, disease, engineering failure, and eventual success. You are sitting on top of Mohenjo-Daro's drains, Rome's sewers, London's cholera lesson, and a body that still, deep down, would rather be squatting. The flush you barely register is the quiet final chapter of one of humanity's oldest, least glamorous, and most important inventions. And the next time you close that door for privacy, remember, your ancestors would not have understood what you were hiding from.